Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time, and hopefully we'll make it useful. So, this is me, myself, Prabhat Nigam, Microsoft MVP. This is my picture from my MVP summit last year in the Microsoft Seattle office. They hung me on a pole. So, yeah, and this is my MVP lead, and he brought me this poster. It's there way back in India. They are framing it and putting it on a wall. All right. So I'm MVP. I'm a Microsoft Exchange certified in 2013, 2010, 2007. I'm a Microsoft Exchange PSS employee. I'm an ex-employee of Microsoft. I write my blog on MS Exchange Guru, and I'm a speaker in these different places, including here. All right, so let's begin the session. And sorry about the delay. All right, so today's agenda is about Exchange Server Edge Transport Role. So we'll talk about we'll take the overview on it. We'll see the past, present, and future. We'll see benefits of Edge Transport Role Server, Edge Transport High Availability, Edge Transport Prerequisite, configuration steps, working environment. I'll walk you through a lab where I have Edge Transport running and working. Protect your domain from blacklisting. So that's very important. Mostly we see the mails bouncing or something. So that's last slide. I will keep your focus on that. So that's why I've kept it on the last slide. All right. So let's begin with the survey. How many of you are really using Edge Transport? Or at least we got one. That's nice.
The first place I worked.
That's nice.
2010.
Yeah, I mean, there are different views. Maybe you might like to say they come to party very late. They started basically in Exchange 2007. By the time we were already using Exchange 5.5, 2000, 2003, and by the time Exchange 2000 came, we already had a spam guard or SMTP relay server like Linux, Apache, or something else for the relay. Or even we used Exchange 2003 or any other server, even the IS SMTP for the relay. So maybe they gave a lot of options before launching the Edge Transport server role. All right. So so Edge Transport basically is there are different things you can do. There are different benefits. We'll check that. So they started with 2007. Then they continued with Exchange 2010. Then Microsoft disabled it in 2013. They decided not to use it, but looks to me that customer requested again that they want it, and they brought it back in Service Pack 1 of Exchange 2013, which was a kind of a change or kind of a surprise for everyone. So it was a good change, I would say, because Edge Transport is a very nice server. We'll see the benefits, and then you might also feel that why it's nice. So what is your view about Exchange version next? What do you think it's going to come? You might have already seen, if you have seen the agenda of Ignite conference, they have already added they're going to talk about Exchange version next. So it seems like it's coming this year. By the end of the year, we have Exchange version next. What do you think? It's going to come with Exchange Edge Transport role or no? Any other thought?
I would say yes.
So any majority or it's like
I would say
right. Yeah, I know it, but because I'm recording this session, but I cannot tell you that because it's still under non-disclosure. being an MVP, I have the access to some non-disclosure agreement materials, so I know it, but I cannot state it. But yeah.
Also, like he said, I will say yes, because if they're reintroducing it right now, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I will say yes.
Yeah, looking at the SP1, it came back in SP1, so they should not turn it off. That's the expectation. That's what my view as a majority people would think about that. If they have turned it on back, then why they will turn it off? Yeah.
If they're going to go back to the numbering for exchange stuff, then I'm going to leave it be next. Call it 2015, 2016. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah, right now they're just saying VNext in public. Internal we know, but until they release, we cannot just say that this is the actual name. So next slide. Oh, we have another survey which is a little early, so but that's fine. I just have only one person who have used it. So which version you started using?
Well, I came to this company
And they
were already using it. But like I said, that's the only company from the world.
So which exchange they had?
This is 2000.
Oh, okay, 2010. Okay. So yeah, I've used it since 2007, and then 2010, and then 2013. I'm using it as well. So I wanted to understand that, are we using SMTP gateway? Are we using any SMTP relay server, except Exchange, or anything else in your environment? Just wanted to have a understanding.
We pay for Exchange Online.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice, kind of secure. It's new. A lot of things changing in it, but yeah, at least you have support. Maybe support is free. So, any other? Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, I know Mimecast. I have my. Yeah. So, how's the experience with Mimecast?
Sorry?
How's the experience with Mimecast?
We recommend most of our content.
Yeah.
How do they handle like logs? The SSD log? Or...
I haven't had that happen. I've had a client that had to do a message lab, and they take
Message lab was painful.
Message lab is semantic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know people are using it, but it depends.
We use Mimecast. I use it in Prerequisites.
Is it web-based, or do you have to make a report for it? It's web-based now.
So
sometimes there's some visibility, but between the two,
So coming back to you, that you're using EOP. So are you using Office 365 as well as EOP, or you just have EOP?
We started with Front Bridge, then Forefront Online Protection.
Yes.
No Office 365.
Yes.
And then they required Exchange Online Protection upgrade last summer.
Yes.
They threw at us a bunch of Office 365 accounts, but we just started recently using CRM.
Oh, okay.
Microsoft CRM.
Yes, I know.
Other than that, we don't do it.
So you use EOP for CRM?
We use EOP for our email.
Yeah. But Office 365 for CRM.
But Office 365 is for CRM.
Yeah, because initially I believe the statement was that you have to be in Office 365 to use EOP.
Yeah, because your directory, you're going to do your directory.
Yeah. Synchronization, but
anybody who's not in your directory,
yeah. So basically, EOP. If you just use EOP, it's Edge Transport Server on the back end. You can say it's just using the transport piece of it. It's not using the mailbox piece of it. If you start applying the DLP policy and all, then it will start using a little bit of more transport, but it's still considered it's not using the mailbox part of it. So basically, I think, yeah, they wanted to, I don't know what they changed now, but looks like they have the option to go for separate DOP. All right. I've also seen a lot of customers are using Iron Port as the SMTP gateway. How many are there in Iron Port?
Barracudas.
Using?
Yeah, both.
Oh, you're the best security person here, I would say. Okay. So, all right. So, let's see the benefits of Edge Transport Role. So, the Edge Transport Role takes care of your front-end production because it's a front-end server which stays in DMZ. So, any email which comes, which hits it hits Edge Transport Server role first, and then it comes to internal corporate email servers. So that's first and foremost benefit. I just love to see that my mails are being scanned at DMZ and then it's coming to me on my corporate network. I feel very safe. It's like a one palace. You are inside a palace and there is an outer belt which is securing you. So that's one of the greatest thing. And then secure backend, that's the same thing. If it's the front end and it secures the backend. Then the mail relay. There are many organizations, I would say, like I have worked for telephone company like AT&T. So there's one company in India. I've worked for Vodafone, and I could see that every month or every day they used to send so many bills to the user, and that used to be done by the application. It's not exchange user who is attaching and sending it, but there's an application which is running the script and attaching the bills and sending it. So many bills are going through one server, which can be your corporate server. Do you want to do that? No. I would recommend using Edge Transport Server or any other SMTP server. That's what you want. So this role can be played by Edge Transport Server. One benefit with that is that the application team will do the configuration, like anonymous access or anonymous authentication, any authentication they want will be free to give it because this is not a corporate server. Then second benefit is that the load, you don't want the your corporate mail servers get loaded by an application for like a couple of hours, and if something crashes during that time, your mail flows down for the corporate network, which is bringing the business or discussing the business. You don't want that. So Edge Transport will take care of that. And Edge Server is not part of the domain, so Active Directory hack cannot be attempted. It is not part of the domain. It's in the work group. Anti-spam and antivirus protection load. So every time the email comes, it does the antivirus and anti-spam protection scanning if you have it enabled. If you have the Edge Transport, then it can be moved. The load can be moved to Edge Transport if you enable the services. If you enable the anti-spam and antivirus features. So that's again an advantage to reduce the load on the production servers. Then transport rule loads. So there are a lot of transport rules we run, and that can also overload your production server. Depends on the organization to organization. The small organization might have very less rules, but bigger organizations might have more rules. If there's an email, if there's a suspected user, they might like to configure a rule, copy an email to investigation department for this particular user. So imagine 100 emails for that user is coming, and they're copying 100 emails to that particular department. How much load is going for just for one user? And if you have like thousands of users, it's going to increase a lot of load on your hub transport server role, basically. In Exchange 2013, there's no hub transport, but it is still a part of mailbox server as well as client access server. So on whichever server you have configured the mail to receive, it will be overloading that. Then the features like address rewriting. So there's few organizations who are like in the merger. They have just did the merger, and they will receive the email for XYZ email ID, and then when it comes inside, address rewriting converts to ABC email ID, and that's how they receive it. So that's a huge load as well. So that can be moved to edge transport as well. All right, let's move on to the next slide. All right, so edge transport in high availability. High availability is the biggest concern nowadays. Everywhere you go, that we look for high availability so that we can avoid any downtime. But the downtime, there are different ways of configuring the edge transport in high availability, and it is very important because it's your SMTP gateway. If you have the backend on cluster, client connectivity on the cluster, or a load balance with the load balancer and not the SMTP gateway, then it's not a complete high availability. You would like to have the complete high availability of end-to-end product. So even if you go for Ironport or any other SMTP gateway, you would like to have the high availability on that. So there are a lot of there are 4 different ways I could figure out. We can still mix and match and make it more, but these are the 4 multiple possibilities of high availability in Exchange 2013 edge transport server. So I'll move to the, I don't know, this one should be multiple possibilities. Single MX record to load balancer, single MX record pointing to 2 host record, 2 MX record pointing to edge transport server to 2 AD sites, 2 MX records pointing to 2 host records. So there are different possibilities. We'll see in the next slide. So this is the first high availability as per my understanding, which is the minimum requirement. Single MX record to load balancer. You just have one MX record in the public DNS, then you map that IP to your firewall or router, and that does the netting to that does the netting to the internal load balancer, and internal load balancer is doing the load balancing for edge transport server. That sounds pretty easy. Any question on this? All right. All right, so this one is a little bit complicated. So this one has single MX record with 2 host records. So as you know, MX record is not pointing to an IP. MX record points to the host records. When you create a MX record, you point it to the host records. So host record is the key here. We have one MX record for this particular domain, which is mx.golden5.net and pointing to mail.golden5.net, and you created 2 DNS entries with the same name but different IPs. Yes, this is possible. You can create this, but you cannot create same name and same IP again and again, or you cannot create a different name and the same IP. I believe that's not possible, I believe. But the same name and different IPs is possible in DNS. So you create this, which means that DNS will do the round robin for you, and we can leverage this, and it will go to the first public IP 172.154.29.167, and then it will go to 152.154.29.167. So what will happen is we have we are not talking about the firewall or anything. It's just maybe you just have a firewall which is allowing both the IPs, and both the IPs can directly go to the edge server, which is also a possibility. You might not have a load balancer in DMZ, or you don't want to have a load balancer in DMZ. So you might like to go for this configuration. This is also a possibility. Directly you can receive on the edge transport server. So you might also think, why just directly going to edge transport server? No, it's a SMTP gateway. It's just same as the iron port or any other SMTP gateway. So it has the right to receive directly from internet. That's fine.
What's the purpose of this versus just having two MX records?
Yeah, I'm coming on to that. Okay. So this is another way of configuring the high availability.
Okay. Pros and cons. Another alternate.
Yeah, that's another alternate. That's I mean, you create two MX record. If they are just pointing to these two IPs, it's no added value. Just create two host records. That makes sense. Yeah, this is one of the possibilities. So previous one, I'll go back. Let me clear this. So this one has one MX record, one public IP host record, and it's here we are doing load balancing based on the load balancer. We move to we move to the second scenario where we are doing load balancing based on the DNS round robin. So we are leveraging the public DNS for DNS round robin, and then it goes to the edge servers directly. And the third scenario is this one, where we have two MX records. Or if we have the two MX records, there should be a purpose, right? So my assumption is when you have two MX records, my purpose is to divert the traffic to two different locations. Unless there's one MX record we can have is with a higher priority and the second with a lower priority. But that was the old concept, isn't it? Now, if you have two internet lines, you would like to use both. Why you would like to keep it as a dead line, right? As a backup line. It's a backup line, so I want to keep it shut down. No, you don't want to do that. Now you want to utilize all the WAN links, all the internet links, rather than just keeping one as a backup. That was the old thing. We used to keep one as a backup link, and it comes in the picture. It has less bandwidth, but comes in the picture when first one goes off. We are still paying for it, so why to keep it off? So we can use that. So so in that scenario, we can always have even one MX, but two host records can do that. You don't need two MX records. But yes, if you want to delay the in case of first one is failing and then go to second one, and that is possibility. But nowadays, I don't see that many of the organizations keeping it as a second backup link and not using it. So I would say yes, possible. You want to go for that, go for it. But I would say use both the internet links. All right. So this is the third scenario. In the third scenario, I'm saying we may have two AD sites. Okay. So two AD sites. Is it connected through WAN? Might also have the internet, because you would like to have Windows update and everything. So if you have the internet, why not we configure it? Why don't we configure edge server as well there, and let the mail route through both the AD sites, how much difference it makes? Because if you send an email to internet today, how much time it takes? How much maximum time is in your environment? In my environment, it's 30 seconds. Within 30 seconds, I see my email in Gmail. So does anyone have who has like 2 minutes time it takes? No, right? So that's what I'm trying to say is, even if you have two AD sites, WAN link, and if you receive emails on both the sites, it's a load balanced two AD sites. So in this case, we can use two MX records point 1 to one side, second to second side, and then the host record is there pointing to the different AD sites. Then it comes through the load balancer, and load balancer is doing load balancing as well with 2 edge server in each site. Nowadays it's a virtualization which is everyone is using. So with virtualization, edge server cost almost nothing. The cost is just a few gigs of the drive, like 100 gigs or 200 gigs of the disk drive, 4 gig or 8 gig of the memory, 2 processor per server. It's very easy to go for that. So mostly if you have 2 AD sites, you will have a DAG configured with that DAG is a mailbox cluster, if you don't know. So if you have the DAG configured, then why not we have the edge server as well, and that too with in this kind of a setup. So this is another way of doing the high availability, which is across the site. Let's move on to the fourth one, which is not much different than the first two. Creating 2 DNS host record with 2 different host name, router1.goldenfile.net, router 2, and then 2 MX record. This is what you were talking about. But yeah, there are 2 WAN links. There are 2 WAN links coming to two different routers, coming to the same firewall. They come to the same firewall. Same firewall can still the main thing to see is the point number 3 and 4. So the same firewall can do the one-to-one NAT with different public IP, but the same LAN IP. So it's pointing to the same load balancer WIP pool, which the first IP is doing. So this is another way of doing it, load balancing, where we are using same load balancer, but 2 different links are coming to the same load balancer. All right. Till this point, anyone had any question? All good? You are interested in doing high availability now, or your SMTP gateway in this way, in one of the way maybe, or you might already have one of the way configured. Raise a hand if you have any of the kind of a high availability in SMTP, like the one we discussed. No? Or high availability for? Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's one thing. Is kind of a new fashion to go through Internet SMTP gateway, and yeah, because they have multiple servers. They have configured in similar fashion. May not be just 2, they might have 10. So that's high availability. Anyways, so if you want to install Edge Transport Server in your environment, it's very easy if you know how to do it. So these are the prerequisites for Edge Transport Server. Edge Transport Server did not come with before Exchange Service Pack 1, so we need to have the Exchange 2013 Service Pack 1 software. We have to, it's definitely preferred, and it's a secure way to keep the Edge Transport Server in the DMZ. If you don't have, there's no restriction on it. I have my Edge Transport running in the same production environment, but it's in the same network, so it's not giving any added benefit. It's my lab, so it's just for my testing. But if I will have a production, then I might like to go for DMZ after beyond the firewall. Then we need to open a few ports, which are not so many. So if you see this particular diagram, this particular picture image, this is a copy from Microsoft, one of the blog, but I did some modification. So I'll explain what I did. if you have seen, if you have seen this picture in Microsoft blog, can you tell me what did I change? Do you see anything? Is anything looking wrong here? All right.
The only thing that's a little bit out of ordinary is, I don't know, that's going on.
All right. So you think the mail flow should be this way? That all the ports should be configured this way? I mean, I'm just asking. What is your view? If you have any confusion or concern, why this, why that, let me know. So
That makes sense.
yeah, okay. So
You change.
yeah, I'm coming on to
Okay.
that. So after that, everything ports. So the first port is the SMTP port 25. This is for outbound internet. So this is internet. Port 25 for incoming and outbound email flow. Then that's the only one port we need actually if we want to open only one port from edge server to internet and incoming internet as well. Then it's rest of the things are internal. All the internal ports we require is 25 and 25, 25. So can anyone tell me why 25, 25 except Ben? Why I'm mentioning 25, 25 here? Any thoughts?
Yes, I think it's more like a security feature because by default port 25 is already open. So
Yeah.
this is more like a security feature.
Um,
I mean, so they want people who are trying to hack will not be able to guess port 25 being the default.
it's partially correct, but that's what I was looking for. I'll explain. I'll talk on it as well. Well, it's a good thought. Okay, so port 25, 25 comes into the picture when you have client access server and mailbox server installed on one server. So if you have two servers installed, both the roles installed in one server, both cannot use port 25 and both have this functionality. So client access server uses port 25 and mailbox server uses port 25, 25. So that's the reason why we have 25, 25 in the internal port listing. But Mohammed made a very good point. When it comes, the mail is already inside in our SMTP gateway. Yes, we can change the port and point it to port 25, 25. So the mail will go to different port. So internally it is secure. Even if someone tries to hack the DMZ, still the person cannot figure out why. I mean, they will try to use the port 25 beyond the DMZ, but we have port 25, 25 open, so they cannot come in. All right. So I've seen people using port 26 as well. You can use port 26. It's hard to, yeah, because it's internal traffic. Yeah, as far as your SMTP protocol supported, you can use it. Every port cannot be supported. That's another thing. Port 25, 25, and then 25. Then we have DNS resolution on port 53, which is for Active Directory DNS server, which is here internal DNS server, which will cross all your firewalls, go to the internet, and use the DNS query, give the query back to Exchange server, Edge server, and then this server will send the email to internet. Then we have LDAP port 5389. This is locally to bind the ADLDS instance. So we install the ADLDS instance on Edge server, and we install this because we want to do the recipient filtering. So it does a sync with Active Directory. So it has some read-only attributes of the users, but not writable attributes. So for that binding, we use port 5383 for ADLDS. And then directory synchronization from mailbox server role to ADLDS is 5636. Rest of the prerequisites will be remaining same as Exchange 2013. There's a lot of prerequisites depending on the operating system. If it's 2008, you have more things to install. If it is Windows 2012, it comes with a lot of things already in it. So please follow the same prerequisite. That's the Exchange installation. Okay, so coming back to the what did I change here? So Microsoft, when Microsoft published their blog, they kept port 53 at the edge transport server. But I have been using this kind of a model from the previous times, that port 53 is not required on the edge transport server. Your DNS, your Active Directory DNS server is already doing the DNS queries. Why we would want to open another port 53? So in the past, I have been working with IBM, and they were too much with the security. They had all the concerns with the security. Why you want to open another port for DNS? This server is not a DNS server. Why you want to open? So it's hard to answer and convince them to open port 3. But they made a valid point. In my view, they made a valid point. Why you want to open another port 53 from the edge transport server when your internal DNS is already doing it? So I had a discussion with Microsoft product group, but they were okay. They were saying that this doesn't matter. You can open. So we preferred that this way. This way will be faster. It doesn't need to go back to DMZ inside the LAN, and it can still send it. But my preference is this. But you can still go ahead with port 53 to internet. Here, you can open port 53 as well. That was a change. Makes any? What is your view? You feel that you want to open the port 53 on the edge, or is this okay?
It depends. I mean, I typically push it internally, and it's based on email volume. So a lot of the email is spam, and there's a lot of queries. Instead of hammering your internal and then having that go out, I just public IP. That's why I typically public IP on a high G.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not denying with that, but I explain my reason.
Yeah, no, I like your idea.
Yeah, I explain my reason because that's the way it has been. Different organizations, they support, they don't support, they are convinced, they're not convinced. Then you tend to think out of box what they want to do. But this is what we have been using. I think this was the best practice earlier. Then maybe they realize that, okay, the mail, what you said, we receive a lot of spam, so that's why it should go from edge transport to outside. All right.
I mean, just talking about DNS queries.
Yeah.
One of the challenges that you start to get a lot of spam is that you can really tax your DNS. It depends on how you host your DNS.
Right.
But one of the challenges I had seen was I had very low TTL Mac records.
Right.
And due to the amount of spam they were getting, they were doing so many queries. So I had to increase the number of TTLs to use the amount of spam.
Right.
So I mean, it's a double-edged sword. What you do, internal versus external. So.
Right. The earlier they, I don't know, maybe the edge transport was not so smart in Exchange 2007. So they said, if you will put the DNS server IP in both the LAN cards, if you have two LAN cards, if we put the DNS server IP on both the LAN cards, Exchange server will be confused. Where should I send the query? So that's why they recommended you will keep the DNS on only one network card, that will be your corporate, because you need to deliver the emails to corporate network. So that was another point why they said you don't need to configure 453. But now it looks like they are saying now networking is smart, and now you can configure the DNS on both the LAN cards. So that I have not tested, but they have said so it should be working.
Do you typically deploy Edge in a 2?
Yes. But now we can change. But how will you? I mean, you can have it in a switch, and switch can route the traffic maybe.
I mean, if you're, I mean that's typically I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's just single NIC, and then you have route the traffic in a separate subnet.
Yes.
And the traffic is routed.
Yeah, that what is called. There's a special name for that computer. Anyone knows the
DMZ?
No, if there's a server with 2 NICs and connected to different, yeah, server. But it was the question for everybody. Anyway, okay, let's move on to the next slide. I hope you're enjoying. So the bird taking it away. All right. So edge transport configuration steps, very easy steps if you follow with some patience. But if you want to go in rush, you might fall back. You might miss something. So install the server, install the Windows 2012 R2, I would say. Go for that. Install it. Then go to the computer properties. Extend the computer name because you're in the work group. So expand the name to add the domain name xyz.domain.com. Restart the server. Come back to the DNS properties. Like I discussed, if you have mostly you will have two NICs. So on the corporate NIC, configure the DNS. Keep the other NIC, which is the internet NIC, network interface card, leave it blank for DNS. Just give the IP and the gateway. No DNS. Basically, no gateway. Why gateway? Actually, just the IP, because there's nothing going out from that NIC. It's only for incoming. No, it's going out as well. But I believe gateway is not required. But there's no problem with the gateway. But no DNS. All right. Install AD/LDS from AD role in the service server manager. The good thing is you don't have to do anything with AD/LDS. You just need to install it and leave it. You don't have to do any configuration. So there's no pain in doing it. You just add and remove a role and you install it. Then make sure you have the ports open. If you don't have it open, then you open it at this point of time, because in further steps we need it. Then install Edge server, Edge transport server with the service pack 1 built or higher. Then export the Edge subscription from Edge transport server with this command: new Edge subscription -file name and the file path and the file name.xml. Then create a host entry, because this server might not be able to reach to your AD DNS. Create a host entry for this particular Edge server, because when you will import the subscription, your corporate mail server will try to connect to Edge server. If it cannot connect, it will fail the subscription. So make sure you have the DNS entry. Your corporate servers are able to ping the Edge server, and Then run the command to import the Edge subscription with the command new Edge subscription file data, and it's a little bit long command, and assign the site. Then in the next step, configure port 2525 if cache and mailbox are installed on the same mailbox server. So the message is coming for port 25, but if we have mailbox server and cache server together, we have to change the port to port 2525 in Active Directory for this particular connector. This connector is a special connector. It does not allow you to go to its properties and change it, but you can change it through the set send connector command or going to the Active Directory ADS IDET. Then its command is easy, so I would say it's easy. It's not much. Then configure internal SMTP on transport configuration on the mailbox server. This configuration will be passed to Exchange Edge transport server, because these are the internal IPs of your mailbox servers. Otherwise, Edge might stop sending the email to these servers, considering spam, because every email will go to these servers. So there's a possibility your Edge server will think, why all the emails are going to this server? Is it a spam or something? Or all the emails are coming from this server? Is it a spam or something? So we have to add this. If I have tested when I saw that there was an issue, and then I created this part as well. So yes, make sure you do it. There's no harm in adding this internal SMTP server IPs. Once you are at 11th step, that's the maximum configuration you need to do. So it sounds pretty easy, isn't it? And it is pretty easy. And then you have to just do the full sync with the Edge server. So you run this command, start Edge synchronization with the Edge with the server name, mailbox server FQDN, then target is the Edge server FQDN, and the switch is force full sync. Also restart the Edge sync service on the mailbox server. That will also ensure there's a push is going for Edge synchronization. Any questions on it?
How often does AD sync occur?
That's a nice question. I do not have a right answer right now. I will have to have a look, and I'll get back to you after the session. Yeah, I mean it does. I think it does 3 to 4 times in a day, but I don't want to predict and be on the incorrect side. So I will let you know. Any more questions? Yeah.
I'm looking at your PowerShell. Brackets like I say, the count 0.
Right.
Okay, I see where it is.
What number? 9?
9.
Change some figures. Right after pipe. What is that? Pipe.
So after byte.
Oh, sorry.
So you see byte, and that's before the dollar.
Yeah, that's a byte. That's a command I got, but I can explain it later. I don't have the right answer for that. Why you have this command like this?
No, I mean, what character is that? There's not a bracket.
Oh no, this is a closing bracket, and then I believe this is a pipe. It messed up when I copied the command. So further, I will share my blog, and in the blog, I think it's right.
Closing bracket and concatenation.
Yeah, I think so. It's a closing bracket with a pipe as well. I think that's messed up.
And the other question is, so then also, you said just the internal SMTP server, but what about things that heavily relay off of that. You also identify them this way? You said you should notate which are your exchange servers.
Yes, this is especially for exchange servers because it's in the transport configuration. But yes, that's a very good point. If we have some application IPs which are relaying to edge server, yes, we should add it there as well, because it should not consider that these are the external servers and trying to spam or something. So Ben was talking about the step number 11, where internal SMTP servers we are adding to secure them. The emails should go to them.
So step 11 will exclude all rules?
Yes.
So step 11 excludes all rules.
Yeah, it will say this is the internal SMTP server. Don't do the scanning for this. On that server point of view. But that doesn't mean that it'll bypass the spam. No. If the email is coming from external, it will still do the scanning, and rather than blocking that particular IP, it will not block the IP. It will let it go because it has connection filtering as well. So, all right. All right, let's have a look in the lab.
I found that depending on the size of that data, the synchronize occur 3 minutes configuration data, 5 minutes receiving data, and 5 minutes quality data. We compare that the
Edge sync data he's telling.
Repeat that? I didn't understand.
now I found in internet about the synchronization period. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on the type of data.
Every 3 to 5 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, that's too much. Yeah, I don't think that's great. That sounds like a lot. The old one, I don't recall it going that often.
That's why.
Yeah. That seems like a lot. I don't know the source. It's a lot.
Okay, I'll check this after. Let's pick that point after. Okay, so this is my lab. I mean, this answers one of the questions. This is Azure. I'm using Azure, and I have like 4, 5, 6 servers in it. So the first one is the domain controller. It says DC. The second one is the edge server, and these 4 are the exchange servers.
In a DAG configuration?
Yes, there are two different DAGs.
With multiple NICs?
No.
One NIC.
One NIC. I mean, I don't want to make it complex because this is a lab mostly for testing the builds which are not released. But everything right now is released here. So it's all good. So this is our edge transport server, ET1. So I wanted to go back to edge to Exchange 2013 mailbox server and client access server. So this is our Exchange 2013 mixed mode client access and mailbox server. You can see there are 4 servers here, and it's a receive connector. It is not showing anything for edge server. When you come to the send connector, we have 2 send connectors here. These are the different names. You can see that edge sync, default first site name, to internet, and inbound to default first site. So point to understand here. This is the send. They are the send connectors. Though I have disabled it for some reason, I was playing around with it. Let me enable it. What I was playing around was a different thing, that I wanted to use one mail server to send an email outside through only one send connector. But so it was a long story. That's why I had to disable these send connectors. Later I posted the blog on it, so on my blog you can see that what I'm talking about. So these are the two important send connectors. They look so different, right? And if you will go to the properties, they will look so different. Then you will think, oh, is this a spam or something? This looks fine, but still you can see some of the settings are disabled, so you cannot see every setting there. See, this smart host is --. This is the special setting for Edge Transport Server. I have not created these. When I did the when I imported the Edge subscription, it did created all these connectors. After that, after importing the Edge subscription, when I did the Edge sync, it did all this thing, created this kind of a connector. It says ---- domain, which looks weird, right? So first in the first look, if you're not aware, you might think, oh, there's something wrong in my server, something missed out in Edge Transport. But this is the way Edge configures it. Don't ask me why. Why? Maybe this is the second connector we are talking about. This is inbound to default default AD site. So the first one is going to internet. So any email from these mailbox servers going to internet will use this particular connector, and the mail will go to the internet. And the second one is incoming. You can see the name they have given, the name Exchange server has given is inbound to default AD site. So it's going to the first AD site. It's coming from internet, which is why the domain and the couple of properties are showing us different hyphen and everything. So if you have to change the port, you have to change for the second one, 2525. I have changed it here. I have changed this particular connector's port to make it work. I think I have ADS added. I can show that. Bear with me. I did not browse it though earlier. So this one is inbound. Ideally this should be changed to the port should be changed here to 2525. Alright, so this is the port I changed here. Make sense?
But you had done this using PowerShell.
I used the 80 sided.
But you did use the 80 sided. Okay.
I kind of like 80 sided because I'm using 80 from last like 15 years. That's the day they started using.
No, I think it's much easier. It's dangerous.
Yes.
And wrong, you would never know.
It depends. If you don't know Active Directory ADSI edit, first is to play around in your lab. Don't play around with in a production. If you have to play around, make sure you have a backup of system state, and then play around. And make sure you follow a renowned blog or Microsoft Technical article for that before following it. Just don't do by the forums. Forum suggestion is never recommended to you to change anything they decided. So, but yeah, when you have PowerShell available, then make use of PowerShell. If it is somewhere in a renowned blog or TechNet or on my blog it's mentioned, then it is tested. What I post is definitely I test it, I configure it, or even if my friends post it, they also test it in their environment. They configure the same thing for the customer and also share, because it's hard to find those stuff over the internet. When we post it, we see that, oh, we were not unable to find this stuff, so let us post. Why not? Okay, so I wanted to show you these connectors, and then in the receive connector we don't have edge transport. So where is the receive connector for edge transport? Because even if you have to send an email, it should go to edge transports at some point, right? So to see the receive connector, we'll have to come back to that server. Well, I did an export already, but I will show you again. So this is my edge server. I just ran the command get receive connector -fl. There is full list. It's going to show all the attributes it has for this particular receive connector. So you can see it is TLS and Exchange server authentication mechanism is the first thing you would like to observe. Then you would like to see the server name, what server it belongs to, which is my ET server here. Then you might like to see the message size, because you want to ensure what message is going out from my network through edge server, or what edge server is supporting. Then you would like to see the permission group, because there's no authentication we are configuring. It's anonymous user we have to allow, but we don't configure anything here. It's automatically Exchange configures. Then another important thing to see, the name of the receive connector is default internal receive connector, and then the server name. I think this. Okay, one more thing is the remote IP range. So what IPs are allowed to send an email to this particular server? You have to allow all, because all the internet IPs, you cannot block them. So you have to allow everybody to send an email to this server without any login, and it will accept, but it will only accept for the domain we have in the accepted domain. It will not accept for any like Gmail or anything. So even if you want to add any internal relay, make sure that particular domain is added in the accepted domain in your Exchange corporate environment here. All right, so and this domain is root.com, and it works. I have tested everything. The incoming is not working because I did not create any public domain. Somebody might already owning it. So root is coming from Linux, I believe. The root password and root directory thing. So okay, so this is pretty much I wanted to share. Okay, one more things here on that server. So I'm going to talk about it in next slide probably.
Question.
Sure.
There's just one question which just relates to the easy question is, why is the version number showing what it is? the version number on Exchange version.
Oh, this is, I never considered this version.
But this is an internal build, correct?
No, this is not internal. This is a public release.
SP1.
Yeah, this is beyond SP1. This is, I think, CU6. This is that. I think I should.
The other question I had is just regarding, can you specify per domain requiring, such as TLS? So you're forced TLS for a particular domain. Say you're emailing Citibank and you want the client, whenever the edge talks to Citibank, always force TLS. Can you do that?
We'll have to configure separate send connectors, basically.
For each domain?
Yes.
But I guess technically, can you just do it per TLS and you add the list of domains?
Yes, I mean that's what I'm trying to say. That if you have like 10 domains, you want to send the TLS to them, and then you can connect, create one send connector just for them, and that way you can do. Checking your what is the CU it is. Yeah, it is cumulative update 8, the latest one.
I think you can do like an Exchange servers show that admin show the version of the server and compatibility of the tool itself.
Yeah, I don't rely on that. I go to the programs and
Sure.
features and then check there what is installed.
Yeah, I've never seen that either. I just happen to be looking.
There have been a lot of times, just not here. Even if you run the command, it shows different. If you go to the Active Directory property, even it shows wrong version many times. So these are the versions are not reliable from this. All right. So coming back here, so these are the send connectors. If you try to get the send connectors on the Edge server, you can see it is only showing 2 send connectors, whereas I have 4 send connectors configured actually on the mailbox server. So this tells us that these are the send connectors which belongs to Edge server, but they are showing in mailbox server. Why? Because anything we want to configure on Edge server, it has to be configured on mailbox server. I mean, most of it, except this particular receive connector which we talked about. There are few things which are not showing on Exchange 2030 mailbox server. Those settings have to be configured here. Except that, everything should be done on the mailbox server side. Yeah, the one big thing is Edge server is just my Exchange management shell. So if you want to see a GUI, there's no GUI. If you click on the options here, it might get a queue. Just opening the Exchange console to see what we have there. So you have to most of the configuration you have to do on the mailbox side, so you don't have to mostly rely on Exchange management shell if you're not very happy with it. So this is the toolbox. Okay, meanwhile it's opening. I had something to talk about. Okay, here we go. Okay. So these are the transport agents we are running on Edge transport server. You can see they are automatically created by the priority. So first one is the connection filtering, and then so on. We'll talk about it in the next slide. So just wanted to show you this is on the Edge server. If you go back here on the mailbox server and run the same command, it might have a few less. You can see only 4 are there, and only one is malware agent. Except that, then it's one this transport rule. Others are text message routing agents. The text message, if anyone has seen the text messaging in OWA, in the OWA properties, somewhere it shows that you can send the text when you receive an email, right? So probably it's for that. All right. So okay, I was opening this. So there's nothing. There's no toolbox. There's no tools there. You just have Exchange Management Shell. So basically, once you configure it, you don't really go back to Edge server and look for anything, except maybe you want to see the queues. So you can run this simple command, get queue, and you will see the queues are this. So mostly it's empty. So that's the only thing you would like to see. Otherwise, Edge server is pretty much one-time configuration, and unless you change anything in your environment, it's all good. All right. So any more questions? Anyone wants to see anything in the lab, Edge lab apart from this? This is the Edge lab, so I will not expand it more and go beyond.
Are there GUIs for those agent configurations, or is it all PowerShell?
All PowerShell. Yeah, but I mean, you can if you don't have Edge server, and if you want to leverage these agents, you can still have most of them configured by the script on the mailbox server, but the connection filtering one will go to the client access server. Yes, and it has a different configuration. You have to, I think, pull the DLL or ASP file or something to configure it. I have documented it. It's on my blog. If you want to configure connection filtering, you can do that. So, but there's no straightforward way. That's the catch. I was like surprised when I saw that first time.
Put your blog up. Yeah, that's a good blog.
Yeah, I'll show you. All right, so let's move back to the slide. All right. So, yeah, we want to talk about the Edge transport agents, connection filtering. Basically, connection filtering is the agent which is used for IP connections. So, connection filtering will can have a list where you want to allow these IPs or you want to deny these IPs. You can build up your own list of IPs which you want to allow or deny. Then we have address rewriting inbound agent. So I spoke about address rewriting initially. So like we have a domain called XYZ and they merged with abc.com, and you have not created their internal email address yet, then we can leverage this feature of address rewriting. So the user will send an email to xyz.com, but when the email will come inside, it can rewrite the email address to abc.com. So the end user will not see that, and while sending the outbound, you can see the 10th last option here. While sending it outbound, it can also do the address rewriting. So it's for both. Next agent is Edge rule agent. So based on the Edge transport service rules, if we have some rules configured, we can configure some transport rules on Edge server. If we have those rules, it will follow those rules. Then content filtering. Content filtering, we all know that we can block some words based on anything, spam or any adult word, whatever is the company policy, we can configure that here. Then sender ID filtering. Sender ID filtering is SPF record filtering, I believe, if I'm not wrong.
The sender ID is the Microsoft version.
Yeah, but that's SPF.
No, SPF is different.
Okay.
My understanding is sender ID is a Microsoft push, and then SPF is like open.
Okay, but then it does the same thing. So sender ID is going to check your SPF.
Oh, it does check it, but
yeah.
Okay.
That's my understanding, but we can have a look after the discussion. So sender ID, it's from the beginning, right? So I know SPF since 2003 SP2, when they initially started the IMF filtering, and just after IMF they brought in the sender ID filtering. So that was SPF. Then we have sender filtering agent. So if you know some email ID is always a spam, I receive sometimes. Oh, you have won the $1 million, or you have won from London, from Coke company. You have won an N number of $1 million or pounds. Come and take it, or those kind of spam. You can particularly block those senders, and that sender will not be able to send that email or allow those senders.
They're different. Sender ID and SPF are different.
Okay. Okay. I'll check that. Because sender filtering is different, where you block particular sender email address.
Sure.
But sender ID.
That was Microsoft's push.
Okay.
They kind of added on to SPF.
Okay. Then we have recipient agent. So recipient agent, what it does is it will check the GAL. It has an option which can check the GAL and say, oh, this user does not exist, so reject that email, which is very good. I mean, if there's no user, nobody can spam. I mean, just cannot send an email to unknown user. If you don't know, just randomly writing the email. Okay, Ben at XYZ, Mohammed at XYZ, and sending an email. No, that's not possible. So recipient filtering can block any email for one of the user as well. So one thing recipient filtering blocks is that if the user does not exist in the organization, it will not accept the email. If user exists in the organization, it will accept the email, but there's a feature which can say this user exists, but we don't want this user to receive an email from internet, so block it. It can block it, or we can also have this transport rule to reroute his email. Then we have protocol analysis agent. This one is a very distinct agent, which is going to what do you call? It's kind of based on sender reputation. So if 10 times I have moved the email to spam as a user, it will keep the reputation. It will start building a reputation of that particular IP, and it will start blocking those kind of emails. So this is kind of a distinct. You cannot just predict what will be blocked in it. So it's sender reputation filtering. Then we have attachment. I mean, protocol analysis. Coming back to protocol analysis, it's beyond that. But one of the thing I'm telling you is it analyze the protocol and see if the reputation is going bad, and every email is getting wrong SCL rating from this particular domain, then there's something definitely wrong. So based on that, it starts blocking. Maybe 10 email it didn't block, but 11th it can block. Then we have attachment filtering agent. We can configure don't receive exe files or PDF files or zip files. That comes second last, and then we have address rewriting outbound agent. All right.
And I have a question: which agent leverages SPF? STL. Microsoft releases, or they used to release the updates for those STLs.
The sender ID?
No, STLs, it was the
Yeah.
spam confidence level. And Microsoft would release the signature where you would then load them. And then it would use that to figure out, it was kind of like signature, but spam signature. Are they not using that in Edge anymore?
They are, I think, this is the protocol analysis agent. It
sounds like Bayesian filter. That's what that sounds.
No, that's the one which is a STL rating thing. It is just not doing the STL rating. That now they're expanding the vision. They're also doing the sender reputation, STL rating. So my thought was the sender ID is for either STL rating or it's for SPF rating. But now you're saying no, so I will have to go back and check for what is sender ID doing.
Well, sender ID is what Microsoft pushes. That's what they always recommend.
Give me a couple of minutes.
Sure.
I'll find it.
I mean, the thing that I don't quite understand is where do you get in, like, or does this Edge not do this where, like, for example, a lot of the hardware appliances, that's what I know, is they'll send out outbreak, like signature updates they check on an hourly basis.
Right.
So in theory, if there's an outbreak, the filtering is aware of it, starts filtering based on that. Does this not do any sort of live update?
It will do. It's
do live updates? Or?
Yes, it does with the Windows updates.
Oh, but that's not live. That's yeah.
I mean, it does not do every second or every hour.
But that's when you install the Windows update.
Yes, but you can configure it to automatically update or.
Sure. But yeah, no, I guess I'm thinking of a different approach just from a filtering perspective.
Right. So sender ID.
Yeah, what's the sender ID?
Yeah, sender ID is the SPF.
It's not. So,
No. It is.
there's different. So
It's the STL.
No. It's openspf.org. And so they said, are they the same thing? And it literally says SPF and sender ID are not the same. And so they talk about, unfortunately, sender ID took some of what SPF did and incorporated it and then enhanced it.
Yes.
But
So-
I think Microsoft uses this agent to look at this. But I know what you're saying. It is two different things.
Yeah, so it might do both. It might do sender ID plus SPF.
It definitely says, yeah, but it's not. It's not what you're talking. About. Take send ID and SPF are two different.
I get you. So this is just doing SPF. I get you. Okay.
This is looking at SPF.
Okay.
Sender ID is taking care of the SPF part.
Bad name for it. It should just call.
SPF, yeah. Now I know Microsoft has an SPF or a sender ID wizard, as they call it,
Framework.
and it's a little confusing what exactly it is.
Yeah. That configures and verifies. Basically, that verifies the TXT record and let you configure that.
Sure.
So I'm coming into that topic as well. The next slide. So we'll talk about that. All right. So let's move on to the next slide. All right, so this is the main slide which you were interested in most, maybe beyond Edge server, lab and everything. So blacklisting or spamming of your email is one of the biggest worry or issue which you cannot just predict if you which you cannot just predict basically why it has gone. I have everything right, but then we miss some basic things, so we have to go back and check the basic things what we have missed in our environment. So most of the time I go back and see people don't configure SPF record correctly, or they don't have the PTR record created, or they think that they have to add MX record IPs, MX records, host record IPs in the SPF record. But that's all, a lot of myths or misunderstandings are there. So SPF record and SPF record especially is being verified, like we are discussing. The sender ID will verify the SPF record why and when is what is a piece of concern. So when I will send an email to any domain, they will verify my SPF record. So what will they verify? They will verify which IP is sending this email, and is this IP added in the SPF record. If it is not added, it has failed the SPF check. Then based on the SPF, there's a configuration in the SPF which says if SPF fails, reject the email, or if SPF fails, still allow the email. So if you have seen that infinite sign, kind of like this one, so this thing allows you to say soft fail. That's called soft fail, which means even if it is failed, still accept my domain's email. So in the SPF record, you have to add only the IPs which are sending the emails out, and if the IPs are changed, you have to change the SPF record. PTR record. Mostly we think, why we have to worry about the PTR record for public IPs? But no, we have to worry about it because of my incident and my example. So for this company, I was migrating from 2003 to 2010, and they got these public IPs like 2-3 years back. When we moved the send connector to Extend 2010, there was no edge. So without edge, we were sending emails out directly. They don't have any SMTP gateway. They never wanted to add more things to their infrastructure. Small company preferred just send the emails out. So okay. So the public IPs were not able to send the emails because many organizations started failing their emails saying PTR record failure. You can see this particular error message. I had to hide this particular company. Then it says that requires that all mail server must have a PTR record with a valid reverse DNS entry. Currently, your mail server does not fill the requirement. For more information, go to this website and check. So when we asked the ISP which hosts the domain. So do you know your ISP which hosts the domain cannot create the PTR records? So it always go to the ISP which provides the IP. So that ISP has to create the PTR records. So we went back to that ISP. Then ISP comes back and says, in the agreement, the IPs we provided were mistakenly given to you as mistyped. Those were mistyped and given to you. They were already allocated to somebody else. So because of that reason, we cannot create a PTR record, and we will have to move to different IPs. And now, I mean, imagine that you were using those IPs from last 2 years, and all of a sudden somebody comes back and says, okay. So because of that, whenever you get an IP, you have to verify that IPs does have a PTR record which belongs to you. They ensure that you have it, then only accept those IPs. So PTR records are also important nowadays because of the increase of spam. So most of the spammers most of the organizations also doing the PTR check. Because of that, your email queue might build up if you don't have the PTR record. So basically 2 records are important when you send email out. Now the MX record and the host record will not come into the picture if you are sending an email out and your emails are getting blacklisted or getting bounced or going to spam for receiving domain. Make sure that. I mean, that's the way of segregating where is the issue. So don't go to the MX record directly that, oh, my MX record has something. No, your MX record is fine. MX record is for receiving the email. So when you have to receive the email, the recipient domain will check your domain's MX record, and then MX record will try to fetch the host record, and it will try to deliver. Now, next to the host record, I mentioned alias record, which can also there's a possibility that we have a couple of alias records which are matching to the host records. So make sure they are accurate. In my one of other setup, the host records were stale. So the queue started building. So the primary record is failing for some reason. I cannot recall exactly what was happening, but somehow my servers were still trying to connect, and they were not getting the right response. Rather than the failure, it wasn't a failure. It was connecting, and then connection was hanging there. So there was an issue with either those servers or those IPs. So what happened is that this company had like 10 host records for their domain MX, for the MX record, but couple of them were failing, and my server was not trying so fast to move to different IP so quickly. So either their DNS was not allowing that or something. So in that case, I had to create a smart host entry for a working IP. So I did the telnet through command prompt, and I tested, okay, this IP is working, let me configure it, and I configured the smart host entry to work. But the problem is still not at my end. The problem is at receiving end, and it was hard to reach out to them to tell them that your IPs are wrong or it's not working. So check your IPs. Sometimes people might not be able to come to you, but your company might be missing important emails as well. So next is gateway IP for incoming email and outbound IP for outbound mail flow. These are the main things we are talking about. So make sure the gateway IP is in the SPF record. The outbound gateway IP for outbound mail flow is in the SPF record, and it has a PTR record. And the gateway IP for incoming email should have the MX record, and the IP is not stale. It's still working. All right. So we are end of the session. This is the summary. What we talked about today is benefits of edge transport requirement, edge transport configuration, edge transport high availability, edge transport demo, a little bit, not the configuration part, securing email domain, and this is the blog which I have. So I can walk and go to the blog. This is the Alright, so these are my contacts where I am available. My email ID if you have any question, concern later. My Twitter ID, you can tweet me something. And then MS Exchange Guru's Twitter ID, Facebook ID, MS Exchange Guru YouTube channel. I have all my videos uploaded there. So if you want to go back and see what Prabhat said on this day, so you can check back there. Hopefully my recording is working and I might be able to upload this. All right, thank you everyone. I've tried to add maximum languages.